Hi, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of Journey on the Podcast. I'm Ben Sanguinetti, and this is my good friend, Nate Jones. And as always, we are here to not only serve you, but serve the world by sharing our own experiences because life is a journey, and we all just need to have a little bit more fun. We have another fun episode today, but before we dive into that, I'm going to give it back to my good friend, Nate, and we're going to do a little check-in meditation.
Thank you, Ben. Okay, so as always, we'll just spend just a couple minutes, really short, just check in and just becoming present. So if you want to close your eyes, close the eyes. If you don't want to, or if you can't because you're doing something, then just keep the eyes open. And take a couple conscious breaths. And then just notice how the first couple breaths, that really obviously relaxes the body. That most of the time it's like kind of dramatic, right? The first couple of breaths, you're like, oh, thank God I'm breathing. And so just notice that. And then today, just explore taking your attention to your sense of hearing. So just notice all the sounds that you're aware of right now. So my voice being one of them. And then, maybe other close sounds, some other sounds that are close to you. And maybe some sounds that are a little bit further away. And then also maybe just some underlying background noises that are kind of constant. And then just see if you can explore your sense of hearing in such a relaxed way that you can hear all the sounds at once, not trying to listen to anything in particular, but just opening up and letting all the sounds in just as they are. And then just kind of notice what feeling you're feeling, right, in your mind, in your body. And as we explore sounds, we're going into space, right, because sound travels through space. And so then coming back to your body, right, feeling your breath, just notice, right, if the breath or body also kind of opened up, that became like a little bit more, the more spacious. And then just take one more breath and let yourself just be here, right? Just relax here where you are. And then just one more idea that's really nice to think about, and to kind of have it seep into us. I was asked the other day what perfection is. I wasn't sure. And my teacher said, what it is who you are, and where it is deep inside. So just acknowledging that possibility that in this moment, there is perfection within you. And this moment implies that it's eternally there. All right, and then as you're ready, just go ahead and let the eyes start to open. If you want to keep the eyes closed, by all means, keep the eyes closed. All right, cool. So welcome back, everyone. That's yeah, we got a really cool episode. We're gonna go over another past life of Ben, and this is one of the most recent ones that he recovered. Um, and I remember that you telling me the story of this one, after it happened, and you're just so excited. I think you left me like a total of like 30 minutes of voice messages on WhatsApp, and I was listening to it like I was listening to like the the best audiobook. It was like I was back in the seventh grade listening to The Hobbit, on tape. It's like, oh my God, this is amazing. So, as I haven't really heard about it, since then. So I'm really looking forward to this.
Awesome, man. Yeah. And this past life definitely gave me the most details, I think. I was thinking about it last night and doing some reminiscing and journaling on it and going through my recordings and notes. And I realized like, damn, like this was in depth, but it wasn't. And I'll get into that. It was simple still. So before I dive into stuff, I was listening back to some other episodes, and one thing I wanted to explain, because I think it's going to be really important to explain for this energy in past life, is Nate and I always talk about channeling energy work, and we don't talk about chakras, but that's kind of what we mean when we say that. But I wanted to just describe like what energy is and like what it does for us and how it's a part of us. So this is just a quick little Google search of a study they did at Stanford that the average human at rest produces 100 watts of energy, and when that energy is moving and pumping and flowing, that human, us, can go up to 2,000 watts of energy. Wow. And I look too, that's like we're like little mini fridges like running around. Like that's the best way to say it is we're just basically little blocks, little fridge blocks running around. So we have electricity in our bodies and we need to learn to be able to harness it. And that's why too, like I believe a lot of things happen with becoming sick and having anxiety and getting stressed out. I think a lot of that has to do with just being overwhelmed energetically. So we could do a whole episode on the chakras, energy work, and I'm sure we will down the line. But that's one thing that I was going back on some past episodes of my past life saga that it is. And I really realized that's one thing we haven't actually explained. And I think that's important to explain, especially with this one when I step into it. The energy of this past life was absolutely incredibly insane. And Nate, you wanted to add on to that because you actually, I have to say, Nate does a great job explaining, and I think you have a better understanding of this than I do. And I appreciate that about you too. So yeah, please jump in there.
Oh, thank you. There's actually like, I'm going to kind of predate this, if that makes sense. But the next guest we're going to have on is just like super, super adept at like the using energy and like sharing how to use it and like teaching energy, that kind of stuff. And we'll have him on soon. So his name's Mark Tanaka, and that episode will just give you like everything you need to know about energy basically. But yeah, so there's energy, like Ben was saying, there's energy inside of our body. And really the entire universe is made up of energy. So like, if you've ever heard like any quantum scientists that talk about energy and matter, all matter is made up of energy. So like if you go down to like the smallest minute level at like a molecule or an atom, everything is vibrating. And like, like us, that we're living beings, that we're vibrating at a much higher frequency than, for example, this piece of wood that's holding my bed up, right? That's vibrating at a very low frequency, so it's like that has a lot of inertia and it's still and and stable. And then that we're moving, and that we're thinking, and thoughts are maybe some of the most subtle forms of energy that we know of, and they're so subtle that we don't even know like what they are or what they are or where they come from as far as like Western science. But on the East, to where they've like the other science, you could say that was going deep within themselves, and they had direct experience of what energy was, and that's where the chakras come from, and like all these other kind of the ways that they map energy in the body on the east. But like in a th- th- that is like a way that we can all understand probably is right now th- that your heart is beating. Okay, the heart is beating, and there's blood flowing through your body, and your breath is going. And then like in addition to that, there's like millions and millions of other things that are happening every single second inside of your body. Like, I think it's like roughly, I heard one time that like the, each second there's like 25 million cells that are dying in your body and 25 million cells that are being regenerated in your body. It's like all this stuff is happening all at once, and it's being organized by something that we have no idea, um, that we have no idea about how it's doing it, right? Like I don't know how to pump my heart. I've never I never had to think about, okay, let's pump my heart now, right? I mean, oh shit, I wasn't beating my heart. Let's pump my heart. Th- That's just like, always happening. So there's an energy inside of us that's for some reason keeping us alive. And the one way to look at it is that that same energy is inside of every single human being, and it's pumping their heart and it's keeping them alive. And then you can also look at it like that very same energy is the same energy, that is creating this plant or tree outside, that is fueling this little fly to fly through the air and this ant to crawl, on your bathroom floor. And so in this way, like, if we can get down to really, really feeling and sensing energy and how it like is, and pervades through the universe, then this is one way that we can experience oneness. Because if it's not my energy, if it's just the energy that's flowing through the whole vast universe and it's like highly intelligent, then maybe, if I connect to this energy and I listen to it and I let it move me, so then on some very, very deep level that's beyond our understanding with our mind, so we're actually living at one with the universe and with other people and animals. So yeah.
That's a amazing way to say it. And yeah, like I said, I'm really excited for our next guest as well, and we'll keep talking about it, but we could do a whole episode just on that.
Yeah.
But I think that's important because I do keep talking about in those past life recoveries, the energy, how it felt. And that's what I mean about how it felt is there's just other energies that are flowing through my body as I'm doing this. And that's why, when I did describe too, when I first started out, I could barely do it. I was breathing heavily. And it took me 5 years to get to this point where I did recover the monk, because his energy, when I dive into it, is just absolutely crazy.
Yeah, and like that is like you said, that you were feeling energies coming through you, and like feelings and emotions is just energy.
Right.
And like that we all have experience of like, how overpowering and kind of like how overwhelming emotions can be. I mean, like, they can totally take us over. We could just break down in tears and just like uncontrollably cry, or just feel like all this anger and rage in us, and we just can't help but to like yell or like, slam our fists into something. So yeah, like emotions, is like, they could say energy in motion. So like, emotions, thoughts, and stuff like that, that's all energy, and it's not ours, but like, it's coming to us that we can like, sense other people very well. And like, if somebody, maybe who you're very close with, like someone in your family, if they're feeling really agitated or something one day, and you walk into the same room with them, so then you might very well start to feel agitated yourself. It's because we're very connected and we're all empathic on some degree or some level. And that's like, if you go into different scenarios with different people, all those things have different energies because we're all bringing certain energies, into bringing it into the game, and we can like all kind of feel it's like that we're all, in the same ocean. And like, if I make a wave in the ocean over here, then like, some way or another, it's going to send ripples out, in some direction.
Yes. And that's what I did when I dove into this. There was some definite ripples that occurred. But okay, so diving into it and giving a quick summary of everything that I've learned at this point. The mobster taught me to let go, and that, the past is the past, and it does not dictate where you're at in the present moment. And to let go of things that are that you feel that are holding you back, traumas. And I had to do a lot of deep work to get rid of those traumas. And in between doing all that work, the longest time in between was jumping into the witch energy. And she taught me to be my authentic self and not care what other people think, and to stand in your power and be who you are in your heart. And then the pirate right after that taught me that life is simple, but it's an adventure and a lot of fun, which I love saying quite a bit. And the Egyptian taught me that even though you can become this amazing, successful person, if you don't take care of yourself, then there's nothing really to enjoy. And he also taught me to be a leader and a follower. Mm. And in between the time of the Egyptian and the monk, my life really shifted then. And the best way to say it is things were going really good. I was really on a good track with life. I was going after adding to a new career. I was going after making some changes in my lifestyle. And I was just really focused and really driven. And coronavirus happened. And I was knocked off course like some, but I felt like I kept it pretty cool and calm. And I really was at this crossroads of, okay, what am I going to do now? Just like everybody was. And I felt that, I started having dreams, and I started feeling that energy really creep up of, oh, hey, remember me when you started all those years ago? You're ready now. You're ready to jump into it. And I remember just being like, okay, now it's the time. Let's do this. So I jumped into it in, we had quarantine going on. We were halfway let out. It was just a little bit of hey, you could start doing some things. And that's when I contacted Brenda. I was like, hey, let's jump into this. And this was about in May. I think it was in May of this past year. And what was really cool is, that was now my 5th, and it's gotten easier to jump in and out. So what was really special this time around is it was a lot easier to go in and a lot easier to go into my portal. And as soon as I walked in this time, I stepped in way easier, felt just way more drawn to it. It was just everything was easy, simple. But right when I jumped in, the portal closed behind me, and I look, and right away there is this dude sitting down in this robe, just sitting there and meditating. And he's like, if you see me on YouTube, he's like, all I could see is just a hood, just looking down. And the best way to describe it as I continue on my Star Wars saga of the past lives is he looked like a Jedi just sitting there. And it was crazy, eerily quiet. And we're in the middle of this forest, and I can it's so quiet you can hear the wind, and you can hear birds chirping a little bit here and there, but it's just you could drop a pin and you would hear it. And then out of nowhere, I just hear the words, sit down. And it was totally when Ben Kenobi talks to Luke, it is run, Luke, run, do this, do that. And he's talking in Jedi language. It completely just sounded like that. It was stern, but calm. He's like, just sit down. You don't know shit. I'm going to teach you a few things. All right, let's sit down. So I sat down just right next to him. And at this point too, I couldn't see his face or anything. Everything was covered up by his hood. And we're just sitting there, and he's like, okay, we're going to meditate. I was like, all right. So I'm sitting there and I'm meditating in a past life, which I've never done before. And then it really hits me. And this is where I'm going to pause and like dive into this more. I know we've talked about it, but this is a great point to talk about it. As I'm sitting there meditating with my past life, I'm realizing that this dude, this teacher, was waiting for me to come in to teach me whatever he's going to teach me. And it was like this big realization of like, you know, I've said this before and I'll continuously say it. How much does time exist? And is the present, the past, and the future all in one? Because I kind of believe that it is. Now, it's important that we enjoy all the moments, but I was enjoying the moment being in a past life with this past life that was waiting for me to come through the portal. And that was right away just a huge lesson of, you think you know stuff, but you don't, and let me teach you some things. And I'm sitting there thinking about that and realizing like, wow, like this is absolutely incredibly amazing. No words can describe it. And as we're sitting there meditating, I start feeling his energy. And I love how Nate was describing it, that like, you know, energy is all around us. And it really felt like this dude could move rocks like Luke and Yoda and all of the Jedi. And the what was going through my body, I actually, you know, I didn't mention I mentioned that I was breathing heavily when I first did past lives. This time around, I actually started shaking. Even though I was still in control, I was actually shaking because the energy was so much. And then like he's like talking me through stuff and like saying like, okay, just feel the energy, let it go through you. You can control it. You can do this. And he waited for me to like harness it, control it, and calm down. And when I got it, he like just gets up. He goes, okay, follow me. And I still can't even see who this dude is at this point. Like I don't see his face or anything. And we get up. I start following him through this deep forest. Trees everywhere, really heavy forest. And we're going through, and I'm following him, and we're going through. And it feels like it's like just forever and ever and ever. And during this time, I'm really like tripping out too, that like, so this is the first time too, because I've described the other past lives that I've worked with. This guy is with me. I'm not actually just watching him. He's showing me his life. I'm not just watching it. He's showing me, he's having me follow him. And I'm walking through this forest. I'm like, what the fuck is going on? Holy shit. So we're walking through this forest. I'm having all these thoughts. I'm like, this is just insane. We keep going, and we get to this opening in the forest. And right when we walk through, we walk into this village, and there's all these, I will say brothers. There's all these other monks around. And you could see some of them in white robes and some of them and a few of them in brown robes, which is what he was in. And I look up, and there is this big, the best way to describe it is it was like a pyramid, but it had more like steps and structures to it than just a regular triangle. So it was a big, huge temple in the middle of the forest. And it's like, I would look up and I'm like, whoa. Like the way this thing appeared, it was like so hidden, but just right there in your face. It was crazy. So then I'm like looking around and I see all these people walking around. And when he is walking, everyone stops what they're doing to let him go by. So he obviously is like a pretty well-known guy around the village. And what was really cool too, because remember, I was saying that he was showing me his life. It was like I was there. He knew I was there, but nobody else knew I was there. And it was like when you're in a, I forget what movie to describe, but like there's a ghost that's following around and only one person knows there's a ghost. That was me. I was the ghost. So I'm walking around with him and he's just going about his normal day. That's what I realized. And he was walking up these stairs and he goes into this room. And as soon as he goes into this room, there's these teenage boys that are like messing around. And as soon as he walks in, they like all get in line. And they all just sit and they all start meditating. And it was like class ready to begin. I'm here. Cut the shit. Let's get going.
Great way to start class.
Yeah, right? So I'm sitting there, I'm watching him conduct this class and he's meditating with everyone. And then they get up and they start doing some Qigong. Or that's the best way I can describe it, is it was Qigong. And he starts going through just a class. And as he's teaching it, this is one of the coolest parts that we'll pause and reflect on this a little bit. There's another person that walks through a door. And this person walks up to me, even though he can't see me. He like walks up to me, walks next to my past life, and he flips open his hood. And nobody ever looks the same in a past life. So even though it's my past life, I don't look the same. But for a split second, I like saw what looked like Nate for a split second. And then it went to what the guy really looked like. And so what I realized is it was Nate's energy. And then Nate started teaching the class with me. And so we're both teaching the class together. And so I'll pause there and just like reflect on the fact that, this is a big reason why, before all of this happened, Nate and I have talked for years that we want to do this, we want to do that. And we've always known that we're going to teach together. We're going to do something together. And this is why. It's because we've been meant to do this, and we did this all these years ago. And this was a big, like, what the fuck moment. Like, holy shit. Like, who would have thought, right? And I remember, Nate, telling you that, and just like, it's one of those things. It's similar to when in the Egyptian life, I was telling the story to my wife who was with me during that time, and both of us just knew right away. And it was very similar that as we're going back and forth the audios, me and him just like both knew right away that holy shit, that happened. And we do need to continue to teach people, and this is what we're meant to do. Like, you can't, and that's the thing, we've talked about purpose a little bit. Whatever your purpose is, you can't escape it. It's gonna come somehow, some way to you. And it doesn't have to come through a past life. It just happened to come that way through me. But no matter what, you can't escape what you're meant to do. And what we're meant to do is to serve the world by talking about our experiences and have fun doing it, and continue to teach and help people grow. And that's, one thing I'll give back to you, Nate, because I think it's just a good spot to give it back to you with, of, as I'm going through as I'm watching these two past lives teach, I'm just like, holy shit, like, this is what we're meant to do on some level. So I'll give it back to you.
Yeah, well, so when you were first telling me that story, and you said that this other guy came in, when you first said that, I was thinking in my head, I was like, whoa, is that me? But you didn't say it for like another couple minutes, and then when you didn't end up saying it, I just got like chills through my body. I was like, oh my god, that is so cool. And I think Brenda also said, yeah, that was Nate,
Yeah, so
right?
after we get done, she like just looked at me and said, "Hey, I want you to know that that other energy that was with you was Nate." So she confirmed it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Um, and going back to the purpose thing, like, the being in line with your purpose is such a dissolver of like fear and depression and separateness, like anxiety and nervousness. Because like I think that we can, escape our purpose, but not with joy and happiness. Like if we
Yeah, good
escape our
point.
purpose, we're not going to be happy. We're not going to be full of energy, full of love. But like, if we're aligned with our purpose, then it's like what we do, that might be called work. It'll be so funny to call it work because, work is typically implied of something that I have to do. I don't really want to do it. But when you're aligned with your purpose and you're doing that out there as, quote unquote work, it's like, this is fun and I could do this all day. I want to do this. It's not something that I ever want to stop doing. So what's the point of retirement? That's only something you do if you don't like what you're doing. And, you know, that your purpose will always scare you. It will always scare you because like our purpose is much greater than us. Our purpose is not to glorify, me, right? Or like make me successful or make me popular or make me loving. That my purpose, is to do something for the whole. And, it's different for everyone. That someone's purpose, might be like in the grand scheme of things, it might seem kind of small. But what you do, like in your direct relationships in your life, will just be like, so influential that like, who you touch, the who knows the, what they will do. It's kind of like the the butterfly effect, right? I mean, if you're just living in love and in line with truth and energy, well then all that you do is all of a sudden now what's called in Buddhism right action, and it's like in total alignment. And then like who knows who or what you're going to affect in some way. But yeah, so the Ben and I were talking about this podcast, and like the co-leading like a men's group together, and we're talking about teaching a level 1 shamanic journeying course, and like all these things we were talking about for a long time, but we never actually did it because we were afraid, and we didn't have that. We were like feeling insecure, and then by the time it got to this past life, I think that we had started the men's group, that we still hadn't started the podcast yet. But when we heard this, it was like such such an affirmation of something that we felt deep inside, that it was like it just like totally ignited the engine in us, and we're like, let's do it.
Yeah.
Like,
Let's roll.
yeah, the let's roll, no doubt about it. And like in whatever way we get those little sources of inspiration, I mean, like take it. Just don't doubt it. Don't think about it. If you feel it, that's inspiration for you, and that's called intuition, and that's being open to the energy that's coming inside of you. It's like, just do it. Don't even wait.
Right. And I say too that it doesn't have to come through a past life. And that's the beautiful thing of spirit. It could come through another something happened and changing in your life, and you realizing this is what I need to do. So
any way, shape, or form.
Yeah, exactly. and the point is though to not ignore it, which we easily could have sat back in the fear. And for me, it's not even just, it wasn't even about the fear for me. It was more about, and I still struggle with this, Nate, you helped me out with it a lot, is the perfectionism. I'm not a perfectionist, but at the same time, I always have a tough time of waiting for the right moment. Oh, well, I need to get
Yeah.
all these things done before I can do that. And for this
Yeah.
time, it was more of, what the monk was teaching me and showing me is like, dude, just go. Like, just things work out. Just do it. And so that's what really helped me to where I'm at today, talking to all you guys, and why we will continue to do what we're doing. And I think
Yeah.
too, it was a really defining moment for me of why I am here. What is my mission? What is my purpose? It's to serve and help. And even though I might have to do other things and through the course of my day and my life to make sure I have a roof over my head or make sure I can pay my electricity bill, that doesn't mean that I can't not take the time, an hour a week, a few hours a week here and there, to teach and help people grow. And I've really put that into everything that I'm doing now is, okay, how is this going to serve not only me, but other people? And that's what this energy was all about and what he wanted to show me. And I'll jump back
Yeah.
into where we went from there. So Nate and I were teaching this class.
So real quick, I just want to say what
Go
you were
ahead.
saying, like, about, the doing like all the normal things of life, like the paying bills, doing this and that. And I don't know who said this, but I heard Ram Dass say it, and I think maybe he was quoting somebody else. And he was like, so it took me a long time to realize that even God can take out the trash. And I found that so funny because you can make everything that you do like, aligned with, spirit or God, or the universal energy, to, to, to whatever makes sense to you, if you just pay attention to the energy with which you do it. Like, I'm teaching a Living with the Grateful Heart course right now, and the, the, the emphasis on the second week was all about that, like mindful eating, mindful drinking, mindful walking, mindful movement. And it's just like, really, like, if you can be aware of the way that you're moving your body and the energy that you're having inside, does it, like, from a feeling of being the being rushed, or feeling anxious, or like, are you being considerate with every movement that you make, like, everything you pick up, even if it's like a fork, are you treating it like a piece of worthless metal, or are you treating it like something that's actually precious and maybe even alive? And you can take this into everything that you do. The, the, but we forget so often and so quickly, and we become mindless, which means that our mind, is somewhere else. It's not in the present moment. And mindful, it just means that the present moment is full of our mind, not thoughts, because thinking is basically mostly about the past and the future. But then mindful is just like, placing our mind entirely on this moment without thinking. And then our mind is like a giant, huge, creative, loving sponge if it's applied, in a very non-judgmental way.
Well said. Well said. So jumping back in here, Nate and I were teaching and we taught class, and then we finished up class. And when everything was, it's funny because it was serious during the class, and, making sure everyone was doing what they needed to do, making sure questions were answered, and it was professionally done is the best way to say it. Now, as soon as we got done, though, what we did with this little group is we all got together and we all ate food and started talking and laughing and goofing around. And then when we were done eating food, we got together and some of the guys started playing drums and had little guitars and like were
Nice.
dancing and just goofing around and having fun. They were just having fun. So it was great. Like, it was this crazy moment of like looking at this of, okay, what are we taking so serious, right? We're taking things seriously that need to be done so we can have fun and relax and enjoy life and enjoy brotherhood people having fun with one another, talking with one another. And it was such a beautiful thing to like witness and see, of these guys coming together and doing that and just not taking the day so serious. So as this is going on, my past life is looking at me, and he looks at me. He's just like, okay, come with me. And so we take off and we're going like through this temple and like bobbing and weaving around and going up and down these stairs. And we go up somewhere, and we go and we're in his room. He takes me to his room. And his room, I'll never forget, it was the most simplest thing. It was a bed, if you can call it that. It was basically a little mat with some blankets. Perfect. And this little wooden table and a candle. And he had a book on it that he was obviously writing on. And it was the most simplest room I've ever seen. And he walks me out to, he has a balcony. And as you walk on this balcony, all you see is trees everywhere. And you saw trees everywhere. And then in the really, in the distance, you could see like water. So somewhere it was like trees and ocean. It looked like could have been a big lake. I'm not positive. But it was just absolutely gorgeous. And we were like what felt really, really high up. So we're sitting there. I'm like looking out. I'm like, wow. And he like looks at me. He's like, okay, sit down. And we just started talking. We just started talking about life. And I started talking to him about what was going on in my life and where I wanted to go and how I was going, or how I thought I should get there. And he looks at me and he's just like listening. And he goes, He goes, okay, you can do those things. And it was just this realization of how calm he was just something I am striving to do week by week, day by day. And he started talking to me, and he starts telling me, he's like, okay, you're here so you can harness my energy now, because you need to bring in that energy to everything you're doing. And I'm not saying that's going to be easy, and I'm not saying you're going to get knocked off balance, but when you do get knocked off balance, go back to my energy. And so he gets up with me. He's like, all right, I'm so happy you came here today. I'm so happy to see you, and I'm so proud of you. And he grabs me and he gives me the biggest hug ever. Biggest spiritual Jedi hug I could ever possibly imagine. And it was like we merged together. And like everything got really bright. And it was just like piercing light. And then I was just sitting there on the balcony by myself for a second, it felt like. And then I'm sitting there, I'm like, whoa. And I'm just looking out. I totally really just took the time and really was enjoying the moment. And this is the first past life I've been in where I really felt like I was in the moment. I wasn't in a past life. I was in this life enjoying the moment. So it was a really trippy experience. So then after like I'm chilling and, you know, I've enjoyed my time, he looks at me. And I turn around, he's behind me. He didn't go away. He looks at me and goes, okay, it's time to go. So at this point too, like I'm really excited. And as we're walking back through the village, and he's taking me back to the portal. So we have this long walk from the village and the temple all the way back through the forest, all the way back to the portal. And as I'm talking to him, asking him, at this point, I'm like talking up a storm and just asking him a bunch of questions. And I don't even remember everything, but I'm just like, what about this? What about that? What about, you know, what's the purpose of life? What's this? What's that? Tell me everything, right? And he's just staying calm. And he's like, yeah, okay, blah, blah, blah. So we're walking along and we get to the portal. And as we're getting to the portal, I'm like, you know, thank you so much for teaching me these things. Thank you so much for being with me today. What do they call you in this past life? And he looks at me, and this is the only time he actually like smiled through the whole time. Like I said, he was serious, but he was having fun. With his big smile, he just says, just call me Zenny Benny. And I'm going to pause for that for a second. And during the course of like the last 2 years of going about my life, what helped me come out of my shell was I kind of created this persona on Instagram called Zenny Benny, but it never felt completely right until now, as I've started doing everything. And so what he was telling me, what he was showing me is he's been with me the entire time I was going along that journey. And that really wasn't his name. He was completely just making a joke to me of, I'm here with you all the time. You can have a persona, but you're still you. So just go and be you and have fun. Call yourself Zenny Benny, call yourself Ben Sanguinetti. It doesn't matter. Just to go enjoy it. And so as he said that to me, just call me Zenny Benny, I literally bursted out laughing and he starts cracking up. And I was like, no shit. And he's like, yep. And then I'm literally laughing and walking back through the portal as I'm laughing and going back to this present moment. So that wraps up that past life. And you know, what I mean too about like, it just never felt right with Zenny Benny is that, you know, Zenny Benny is fun. It's a fun thing. I'm going to continue to create things around Zenny Benny. But this is the biggest message of all these past lives is it doesn't matter if you were a pirate, if you were an Egyptian, if you were a monk. The present moment in this life, every life is absolutely beautiful. Every life is special. It's unique. And you have to go after things that make you feel good and things that are fun and have adventures and enjoy this experience. And also, we have to stop taking shit so seriously and just realize that it's going to be okay. And we are in control of our actions, and we are in control to dictate our attitude and how we treat people and how we go about treating our friends, our family, everything. And everything is here for us. Everything is a part of us. And even when we think, you know, we may think that past lives aren't around us, but they are, because he's over here watching me make up a persona of Zenny Benny and cracking up about it. So I think that's a good way to summarize all of those past lives and wrap up, you know, what the monk has meant to me. And still, you know, this is a good reminder to me, because even as I'm saying this, the past few weeks, I've been stressed out about shit. And I've let life get the best of me a little bit. And just going back into this past life, I'm just cracking up of, it is that simple. It is that special. And we need to enjoy it. So I'll give it back to you over there, Nate.
Yeah. Yeah. I really love what you're saying about how the what you do or the what you call yourself, it really doesn't matter all that much. Because the how is always more important than the what. The how you're doing what you're doing, and that's kind of, you know, going into like, how are you? And that's like your state of being. That's how are you being in this moment, and that's just like the internal state. And we can't control what comes to us in life. So we can't control what emotions come to us, you know, or like what emotions, you know, or thoughts, you know, start to overcome us and overpower us, you know, or what people say to us, or like what happens at work, or like, you know, in traffic on the road or whatever. We have no control over any of that stuff. The only thing that we have control over, you know, is that can we accept what's happening and feel into it, you know, and listen and go with it, you know, or we can resist it and try and change it and manipulate it and call it wrong and say it shouldn't be here. So it's like, we can all, you know, maybe like, you know, focusing on our state of being, which is only only in the present moment, always, you know, how you are is only in the present moment. And that's maybe the most primary thing that we can all do, because like if we can like get more in tune with how we are now, and learn how to work with it, instead of manipulate it and control it and force it, and again, like, say it shouldn't be here or that it's wrong. So then we can, always be like in the flow of what's happening, because what's here right now, as that the great teacher Sadhguru, said, just like, that's so great. He had like a whole lesson on it. He's like, right now, this moment, everything that's happening in this moment, inside of you, outside of you, in the whole world, right now is inevitable. You can't change what's happening right now. That you can do something, now in order to affect change in the future, but right now, we can't change anything. Right now is inevitable. And what we do so often is like, we see something happening, and then to react out of fear, with this feeling that we are able to change what's happening right now. And we're like rushed and we're anxious and we have like, all this panic and the frantic energy inside of us, because we're thinking, no, that can't be. That's not acceptable. It has to change right now. But it is possible to accept how it is right now. And then at least in this moment, you bring like a calm energy, right? Calmness. And then that's a really strong foundation to affect change, because you're not affecting change from fear, right? And you're not worried about something happening at a certain time. But you're like, this is how it is right now. Okay, cool. Now what can we do here? And you have such a clearer mind, and that the point at the end there when you said that there's the just really big clear light. I think you say clear light, right?
Yeah.
So like, it's funny, this guy's a monk, and I don't know if you know this, but like, in Buddhism, they talk about the clear light of the mind. And that's like in the present moment, when life is unobstructed, by our thinking of the thinking about the past and the future, and like, all the happenings of life right here in the present moment, so we can experience the clear light, of the present moment. And so do you mind if I read this poem?
No, yeah, go for it, man.
Okay, so I just got this book. Okay, it's called The Clear Light.
There you
Literally
go.
just came to my door yesterday, and it was written
Awesome.
by this guy Steve Taylor. And so I read the first one the last night, and then today I read the second one, and like each day I'm just gonna read one, okay? And the one today is called The Clear Light of the Present. Okay, so the clear light of the present. That there is nothing that can't be undone, no past injury that can't be healed, no past mistake that can't be corrected in the clear light of the present. That every past action that arose from spite, that can be redeemed by kindness in the clear light of the present. Every action that arose from ignorance can be redeemed by wisdom in the clear light of the present. The painful memories of suffering that will evaporate like patches of fallen rain in the clear light of the present, and dark, deep imprints of trauma that will uncover themselves so that they can be healed in the clear light of the present. The conflicts that have exhausted us and grudges that have poisoned us, that for lifetime after lifetime can be flushed away in an instant of pure compassion and forgiveness in the clear light of the present. That there is no need for the past to shadow us when we always live and are always free in the clear light of the present.
That is perfect. And that's exactly what that energy is saying, is just to be in the moment, enjoy life, enjoy, you took a class, you busted your ass, but then afterwards go have some food and go relax. That's Food is fun, right? Enjoying people's company
Food is
is
fun.
fun. Yeah.
Definitely.
Everything can be fun. And we really need to stop taking everything so serious. And I know too, I want to add here that we understand that it's not easy. We understand that, well, you don't have to live with my parents. You don't have to live with my spouse. You don't understand how they do this to me and that to me. And you understand that, my political party lost, or this happened to me. And how much do you want to let that keep affecting you? And I need to be reminded of it from time to time again. But we always need to go back to what's really happening. What's really happening? We're just having a conversation with one of our mentors, Yuki, the other day, which actually you will see that in a future episode. And one thing I really love that he talked about is, the psychology of the human mind. We turn on the news and we get freaked out of what's going on in the news. But if you turned off the news, is that really going on with you right then? It's not. So turn off the news, go have some dinner with your family, go have some dinner with your friends, and just relax and be in the moment. You have anything you want to add there, Nate?
Yeah, there are always problems. There are always problems. It's just, something that this world is just like the made up with inherently, right? It's built in. There are always going to be problems. There's always something you have to take care of, right? And you can call it a problem, you can call it like, oh, this huge inconvenience, or you could just see it for what it is, like Ben's saying, that's just what's happening. But in our lives, when something inconvenient happens, to us, mostly, most, if not all, of our pain and suffering is caused by an unhappy story that we place on top of what's happening. It's like, I make the example because, like, when I was younger, I had really bad acne, and like I thought everyone was staring, at my acne. And if I had like, one big pimple one day, I'd think, oh my God, everyone is staring at this pimple. Everyone is. But nobody would even notice it. Nobody even cared. But me, just because it was happening to me, I made this huge story around it, and it made me anxious and insecure, and just like always, watching like, where my head was turned and all that kind of stuff. So it's like, it is what it is. And then we also create a huge story about what we think it is, and then we believe that story instead of just what it is. So yeah, they're just like, allowing things to be as they are. And then, to catch ourselves when we add on some story that is not helping us at all.
Right. And, the thing is too, is just don't be hard on yourself, because you're going to have your moments. I have my moments. Nate has his moments. But it's how we learn from it and continue to push forward. And just realize that this all is one big lesson. And these can be all happy moments if we decide to make them that way.
Yeah, that reminds me about what you said earlier about being perfect, right? And like,
Right.
the living like, in a way of perfectionism. And like, it just hit me. It's like, that like thought is just like a real sneaky way, of our mind or of the ego to keep us from progressing. Because
Right.
we think that trying to be perfect is good, right? I mean, like, it sounds good in theory. Oh, no. I'm trying to do everything perfect, exactly right. But it's probably not possible to do everything exactly right, because that's also somebody's opinion. Someone will always think that it's like wrong or it could be better. So like, trying to get things perfect, waiting for the perfect moment, that's all based out of fear, because we're not secure, we're not okay, we're not brave enough just to express ourselves as we are right now and just do it and produce whatever we produce with how we are right now, and then be okay with that. Like, me, for example, with my speech, right? And, the, when I talk, I stutter sometimes a lot more than others, and then other times, it's a lot smoother. But, I to let that hold me back so much. And I, kept on saying to myself, oh, I'll do that once I stop stuttering. Oh, that once I stop stuttering, that then this and that and the other will be so easy. But I've really, really been able to let that go lately. And I'm teaching it, teaching in front of groups of people, sometimes up to like 20. And then, this podcast, they'll be recorded and people can listen to it, which was a huge fear of me in the past too. And it's like, I've gotten to the point where it's like, it's okay. I'm going to stutter. Who cares? I'm sure you listening, you don't really care that much. Me, I used to care so much. It was insane. And it just made me so like, anxious and insecure, and like also really, really hard on myself. But it's just what's happening right now in this body, in this life. And who cares? That the more I accept it, not only the more free, am I feeling inside, but the more, it's falling away. So, it's
Yeah.
really, really funny that the power of acceptance, it's like once you stop trying to change something and fix something and force something, and you let it be, whether it's something with you or another person or a situation, not passive, but just to accept it as it is, that is the biggest agent of change possibly that we have, that we have inside of us.
Right. Right. And it reminds me too of when I was sitting on that balcony with the monk, and I was rattling off, hey, he's like, hey, how's your life going? What's going on? And I'm rattling off, all these things that I want to do, and all these stresses that are going on, and how do you stay calm with everything going on? And I'm asking him, how do you stay zen? How do you keep your zen? And I'll never forget how he looked at me and just like was like, just do it. Just go for it. Stop worrying about it. And we spend more time worrying than doing. We spend more time planning than doing. We spend more time trying to be perfect than doing. And we just need to do shit.
Yeah.
Yeah. So with that being said, my friend, I think we should wrap this up.
Yeah.
And that does, for now, that completes the saga of my past lives. However, with that being said, I am not done. We're never done. And, we thought Star Wars ended all those years ago, and somehow they kept making a bunch of movies. So we'll see what happens. But I really appreciate, Nate, you being with me as I've talked through all these, and have enjoyed it with me as well. And I really appreciate our audience wanting to listen and wanting to learn, and just understanding that, we do have these past lives that are a part of us, and they help us in this present moment. But that's a key word. They help us, because we just have to understand the past in order to enjoy the present moment, because the past is just a lot of lessons that you need to carry through and carry on with. And that is, if I could summarize everything about all of my past lives, is that they are just lessons that I carry on with me every single day, and catch myself quite frequently of, is this what the monk would do? I don't think this is how he would react. So I think I need to set her in here real quick and check myself. So with that being said, my friend, why don't you take us out today?
Yeah. No, I love that. What would the monk do? That's like, the, I think I'm gonna take that with me for the rest of the day.
Yeah.
Okay, so again, if you want to, let the eyes close. If not, let's all just take a few deep breaths together. And just feel the energy of the breath. Feel the movement of the inhale. And feel the movement of the exhale. And, as you breathe, see if you can just feel, and to feel an inner feeling of acceptance of the breath, of the body, of any thoughts that are going through your mind, of your life situation right now, whatever you find yourself doing for work or in family or your state of health. Just as you breathe, feeling what an inner state of the state of non-resistance would feel like, and just allowing all of it to be as it is just now, only now. I'm not asking you to do it, in an hour from now, but just now. Just saying yes to this moment. And then if you're like me, that you might just to feel like a little tiny smile come on your face. Or maybe just feeling like an inner smile, towards your body. And it just kind of shows me that, from the very, very kind of fertile, soil or foundation of acceptance, right? Of just saying yes to life is just like a natural outgrowth of joy and relief. And great. And then go ahead and just take one more inhale. Take a nice big breath in. Breathe all the way up, lifting. And then open the mouth and just sigh it out. All right. Well, thanks again, everyone, for being here, for listening. And thank you, Ben, for sharing all your stories. I can't wait for the next past lives you do on the show, or just to hear about it when you do it.
Yes.
Because I learned so much from it too, and it's just like so fun, talking about, that's some story or past life, and then like the bringing it, into the now, into our life, and it really does make everything a little bit lighter. So I just really, really appreciate, all that you're bringing to the show and to us.
Yeah. Thank you, man. And that's perfect right there. Of what I'm trying to say here is that life is fun, and I'm not done with my past lives. I'm not done with my life in the present moment. And that's the key, is to go after it. Go after shit. Do something that you've always wanted to do, because it's going to bring you joy, and it's going to, I've talked about this before. Don't be afraid of failing. Failing is a dirty little word that doesn't mean anything. You can't fail at anything if you go after something. You will learn something new. You will try something new. And if that is what you want, to have an experience, then please, please, please do it today. It is never going to be perfect. It is never going to line up exactly how you want to do it. But all that matters is that you stop taking it so seriously and just do it. Just go and do it. So thank you again, my friend, and appreciate these moments with you. And hope everyone today has a little fun and enjoys the journey along the way. So thanks, everyone. Sending you lots of peace and lots of love until the next episode.